You're listening to Cardiff City World on Cymru Sport Radio, live from the Welsh capital. The most interactive football show in Wales, featuring guests, fan opinion, and all the latest news surrounding Cardiff City. Have your say and get in touch now.
Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Cardiff City World live,
The home of Welsh
on Cymru
sport.
Sport.
This is Cymru Sport.
And we have an exceptional show this evening, not short of topics to discuss. Cardiff City, are they going down? We'll have the fan opinion. We'll have the opinion of former player Greg Halford, among other things. But we want you involved. Let us know what you think. Is Risa the man to keep Cardiff City up? Do they need to make the change now? Or should they stick with this young manager
The
who,
home of
up
Welsh
until recently, had done a pretty
This
good job
is Cymru
under
Sport.
very difficult circumstances? It's a jam-packed show, but I'm delighted that first up, you get to hear my conversation with former Cardiff City player, promotion winner, Mr. Greg Halford.
The home of Welsh sport.
Apologies for that. For some reason, the audio doesn't seem to be working with the Greg Halford interview. I'll have a look at that and we'll get it sorted. But look, there is lots to discuss. Lots and lots to discuss. So we'll bear with me with the Greg Halford interview. Let's talk about Cardiff City. Let's talk about last night. But also, I think, look, ultimately, I want to get the fan opinion. We've got Wayne Dibbs Anderson, who will be well known to some Cardiff fans, on a bit later in the show. We want to really just delve into what people think, because doesn't seem that long ago that the fans were right behind Omar Risa, and we're chanting Risa's Barmy Army, and it was very united front. So what's happened for the wheels to come off so quickly? And that's the problem, is in the space of a couple of weeks, the wheels have come off. Now, is it as simple as an experienced manager tinkering too much? Is it the tactics? I'm really fascinated by it, because I think I said last week on one of my other shows that I couldn't quite put my finger on the disconnect, because if you listen to the way Omar Risa discusses how he wants to play football, that doesn't always mirror itself in the pitch. So is that the message from him to the players? Is that the players not implementing what he's putting out there? It's a fascinating one. I'm genuinely interested in what people think. These are the same players who in January effectively kept this manager in the job by going and, really going to bat for him publicly in the media and saying, we'll keep this club up, stick with the manager, we're behind him. They said that publicly in the media. So what's changed? Because it's only 2 months later. And what I saw last night wasn't a team that's fighting for a manager, wasn't a team with a clear plan. Because the clear plan for me, and I think most fans yesterday, was we have better players than Luton, so go out, fight for it, win it, go and win the football match. And Cardiff didn't do that. They lost the battle. So they never got the opportunity for their, in some cases, wonderful technical players to implement their football skills, because you have to earn that right. You have to earn the right to play football. And that never quite came around. So it's a genuine, interesting one, because what do you do? What do you do? It's regardless of whether people, think that Reece is the man for the job, he's been given the job till the summer. If those same players who went to bat for him in January are behind him, then is it a risk to make a change? I'm just not sure. Let's have a look at some of the comments from the people. Hopefully the audio issues are sorted out now. I will try and get that the Greg Halford interview back up shortly. It's a really interesting one, actually, and he's a real nice chap. First opportunity I've had to speak to Greg, and I really enjoyed it. It was just unfortunate that he wasn't available this evening. So, so we pre-recorded it, but we just had some issues with that. Yeah, such is life. So a few people, Tim saying Reece is a coach, not a manager. Martin saying the bottom line, the squad is not good enough. The players do not have the desire and the passion to avoid relegation. So this is a really fascinating one. And I've seen this sort of said by a few people, the players aren't good enough. I would argue that if you put every single player up there, say Cardiff announced they're having a fire sale tomorrow, every single player is available for, what their basic price is. Alex Robertson, Yusuf Salic, Ruben Colwell, even Aaron Ramsey, I'm sure someone would pick him up. Who else? Will Alves, obviously, is on loan for Leicester, but, same point. Ollie Tanner, Kean Ashford, they all get snapped up real quick. So I don't think it's as basic as saying the players aren't good enough. Even if you go to the defence, you've got two young defenders in Fish and Darland who look like long-term they'll be decent. Joel Bagan's had a breakout season. Callum O'Dowda, Rina Mota has been two of the better players in this Cardiff City squad. So there's individually, they are good enough. It's a very good squad. So then you come to the question, collectively, as a team, are they good enough? Maybe not. Maybe so. I'm interested in what you guys think. But then equally, if, as was rumoured, that around just after that Oxford game where the club thought about, making a managerial change and the players came out publicly and backed Omar Risa, if they had made that change then, would a different manager get more out of these players or this squad? And you can pick a manager out of a hat. Would a different manager with a bit more experience or different skill set, different abilities, would they have got more out of this squad? Did Cardiff City make a mistake by signing players to new contracts before they were safe? It's real interesting because, I think you could argue that the 3 players, was it 3 players they brought in January, have all hit the ground running. It's an Errol Bullet team by and large. It's not Omar Risa's team. Omar Risa took over with no pre-season. So you have to give him, I think it's almost like in 3 bits. Omar Risa's start to Cardiff City manager was very good. Into Christmas, over Christmas, was absolutely unacceptable. Post-Christmas, it did get better. Leeds happens. Obviously, the South Wales derby is, an exceptional performance. But when you look at it as a whole, how many exceptional performances have there been? Plymouth, South Wales derby at Cardiff. Not many whole performances. And actually, when you really dig deep into it, the Swansea game wasn't a whole performance. 5 or 10 minutes before half time, second half, obviously excellent. I see a lot of people point to the whole game as a real good game. But actually, we didn't play that well. We defended well. Where with a bit of a makeshift defence, we had Perry NG and Will Fish at centre-back, who both had exceptional games, making numerous clearances and blocks. The stats were unreal. So it is genuinely interesting. But let's see what you guys are saying. Graham says, individuals, yes. As a team, no. The position proves it. Martin says, they're just not doing the basics for being a professional footballer. Graham says, how many of the players haven't had a new contract offer? And this is the other side of it, is some players have been signed up for next year. Some players haven't. So have they been offered new deals? Have they been told they're leaving already and they won't be getting a new deal? If so, is that behind these performances? Brian says, it will help if we inform the players and leave out those obviously struggling at the moment. I'm a big believer in picking players on form, Brian. And this is one of the reasons why I really couldn't get my head around the Will Fish constantly being dropped, because he was, at that time, one of our most informed defenders. Joe Bagan makes one mistake on Saturday and is dropped. Whereas I've pointed out several times in the last 6 weeks that Dimi Gutas, that he just looks like maybe he's struggling mentally or physically. He just looks like he needs a break. Maybe a kick up the backside to motivate him. I don't know. But there was players who were in form who were being left out. One of the things which Greg Halford discusses is players playing out of position, something he knows a hell of a lot about, because he played right back, he played centre back, he played central midfield, he played CDM, played up front. He literally played everywhere. But he has done that his whole career. So he's grown up as a utility player. Sometimes it's got to be round pegs in round holes. Callum O'Dowda, really good, been really good season from him. Would we get more out of him offensively if he plays left wing or right wing than we do at left back? Because defensively, he's not a left back. He's a left winger who's doing a job at left back. Then you've got young Joel Bagan, who's had a breakout season and has been excellent. Probably hasn't played as much football as he should have done because we play O'Dowda at left back, and O'Dowda's been good. It's a real interesting one. Let me know your thoughts. We'll be back in just a second.
Cymru Sport.
Welcome back. Again, apologies that there was no audio with the Greg Halford interview. I'm really disappointed, but I am working to get it back. But at the moment, no such luck. Obviously, it'll be out, and it'll be up very soon if we can't get it up and working. Greg it was really interesting speaking to him. Paid a real emotional tribute to Sol Bamba. We played a couple of quickfire games. He talked about Neil Warnock's managerial stint at Cardiff. He also talked about the importance of leaders, and the amount of leaders that we had in that 17-18 squad was you had 5-6 genuine leaders. And even he mentioned Joe Rawls is quite a quiet lad. He leads by example. He leads by his performances, but he also hasn't been fit enough to play, so he can't do that. Even Aaron Ramsey, who is a leader in my opinion, and you can see that on the pitch with the way he goes about himself, he is quite a quiet guy. So we do seem to lack those real vocal leaders. But again, I'm interested in what you guys think this evening. I really want to delve deep into it. Where did things change this season? In Omar Rees's stint, where have things gone wrong? Where did things change? I had a conversation with a friend this morning. He feels that it hasn't been the same since the South Wales derby. The decision-making hasn't been as clear. The tactics haven't been as clearly thought out. And he feels like it's a bit, not scattergun, but a bit, Ranieri-like, a bit Tinkerman. So it is a problem. As Martin says there, Errol Bullitt couldn't get these teams to perform. And as we've discussed before, Cardiff City had a really unique opportunity this year with so many players out of contract, with a core of young players in the first team and another sort of group of young players coming up through the academy. You could almost evolve the whole squad without having to spend a load of money, bring in the right players to play alongside them. It's really interesting. Jamie says, Reese's attacking style is what we wanted, and we got revert back to Bullitt in a way, so he bottled some games, to be fair, for his own beliefs. Yeah, there's definitely been a disconnect in the way Omar Rees wants to play and the way he talks about playing, and then how it's implemented and what we see on the field. Martin says there, we didn't press Hull. We didn't. Martin also says, however, we are saying players individually are good enough. So how do you explain the performance level? It's really interesting, mate. I've said a few times, I can't quite put my finger on it. I have to think when you've got a group of coaches who are all relatively inexperienced, maybe there's something to that. We also, I feel, have the bare bones in terms of numbers for a coaching staff. It's not a lot of people. The players, whilst they, will understand their individual roles, they'll understand how they would need to play and tactics. They are led by the managers and the coaches in their preparation for games, how other teams set up, things like that. And it's very tricky. Paul says that we play too deep to play the pressing game. Defence sit far too deep. If at home, say, push 20 yards up the pitch, we'd be able to press further up. But our players are so deep, teams catch us 1v1 with no pace. Well, the idea of pressing, obviously, is to squeeze up the pitch. The issue is when if your defence is deep and the midfield goes, it leaves a big gap. And I mean, how many times this season have Cardiff City's midfield been cut through with one pass? You see that a lot, unfortunately. And maybe if the defence is pushed up higher, that negates that a little bit. But there's probably a lack of pace at the back. We haven't got that lightning quick defender for with recovery pace. I apologise, Tommy T. I'm not fluent in Welsh, so I struggle a little bit with it. I know bits and pieces. Corners and passing have been a problem. Set pieces this year have been, for a team which was so high. Remember how highly Cardiff relied on set pieces, scoring from set pieces last year. This season, we've gone completely the opposite way. It's a complete lack of quality. Is that preparation? It's impossible for me to know for sure because I don't have all the data and I don't have all the information. What I can go on is what I see on a Saturday or a Tuesday. And there's a disconnect and it's not been good enough. But what I can tell you, and I would put my house on it, this squad of players should be too good to be relegated. But as we have seen time and time again in the Premier League, the Championship, way back when it was Division 1, Division 2, you're never too good to be relegated if you're not at it and if you're not properly, doing your jobs individually and collectively. So Jamie says, unpopular, but if Tanner can get back, I'd like to keep him. I'd like him in the middle. He passes with both feet and knows what a ball a winger likes. So I'd like him to do the feeding. How about that for tinkering? Well, Reece, who does stuff for CardiffCityWorld, thinks that Tanner would be good in the 10. I just believe, but if we put Tanner on the left, he becomes a massive weapon for Cardiff City because his crossing and his decision making is so good. He's got the pace. He's a good finisher generally. I just want to see round pegs in round holes. For instance, one of the things that I really don't understand is I know that Omar Risa is a massive fan of Ruben Colwell, but he always seems to be the player who's played out of position to kind of fit him in, who's taken off, who's sacrificed, who's dropped, who's rotated. For me, it's got to be round pegs in round holes. So it's got to be Ruben Colwell. Is he a 10 or is he an 8? Right. If he's an 8, then that's what he plays and play him. Alex Robertson is one which I'm going to get to in a minute. I want to kind of speak about that because I think it's really interesting with Robinson. You have to rotate the Championship. There's too many games to not rotate. But there's rotating to keep everyone fresh. And there's too much rotating whereby everyone becomes a bit confused. You can't build partnerships. You can't build teamwork. And I think that has been an issue. I think if you speak to most goalkeepers, most back fours, they like to have a solid pairing and a goalkeeper that they know most games is going to play. We seem to have different defense every week. Does Omar Risa, and this is a question I'll put to everyone, does Omar Risa know his best 11? Does Omar Risa know his best formation? Because I think he would like to play 4-3-3 with a single pivot. But whenever we've played with that single pivot, we've got overrun because the personnel's been wrong. So whilst I let you digest that question, Martin asked a question. He said, all the hype about Robertson, but is it justified? So I would say up until his injury, absolutely it was justified. My problem with it is I don't believe Alex Robertson's a number 10. I think Alex Robertson's an excellent number 8. A good central midfielder. He could probably do the 6 at a push. I think he did a job for us in the 10 where he wanted to be a bit more aggressive in the press. But I think by doing that, you sacrificed Ruben Colwell because there was a refusal to play Ruben as an 8 at some points. Alex Robertson, excellent on the ball, technically excellent, great vision, aggressive in the tackle, works hard. However, I believe he's been rushed back after his injury, you could see in the whole game was 10 minutes after coming on, he looked like he was really struggling physically. Now, that's not a knock on him. We should be looking after players and making sure that they're recovering from injuries before rush. We all want players back, but you have to look for players, or you have to look after them and make sure you have to stop them from hurting themselves and make sure they're fully fit before they are back in the side. It's a big issue. Paul says injuries at the worst time have caused more problems than anything, not being able to field the same team after same team. Whilst I agree, there has been an issue with injuries, and they have come at really awkward times. They usually have come when we're on a decent run. That Turnbull partnership with Robertson was looking really good. Turnbull gets injured, and then we start sort of tinkering about a little bit. But then equally, you have to be able to, if everyone was fit today and everyone was at the same fitness level, everything, does Omar Risa know what his 11 players would be? If he had to go and win a football match, everyone's fit, does he know what his 11 players are? I'm not 100% sure he does. And the problem being is if he doesn't know, does there then become that where that disconnect comes with the message to the players? Because if he doesn't know his best 11, how can he possibly implement what he wants to do tactically and the way that he wants the team to play? Because as a manager and a coach, you're always looking, get your best 11 out there, and then, right, if this person gets injured or this person gets a knock or they need a break, you bring it in. I look at the substitutes yesterday and I don't really understand them, some of them. But also substitutions, they don't always have to be like for like. So I look at the moment, Yusuf Salic as being the first choice number 9. I fully understand that. And I think there's definitely an argument for it. But because Callum Robinson's our top scorer, you're also trying to find a way to get him in the side. Now, if you look at Callum Robinson's stats, his best periods and his best sort of goal scoring and best assists have come as a number 9 or as a left winger or a left forward in a kind of 4-2-3-1. So Saturday we lined up against Sunderland, and I actually thought I quite like this side because I assumed Robinson would be off the left, Colwell would be in the 10, and we'd go round pegs, round holes. We didn't. Colwell's out wide, but he doesn't stay there because he's drifting, which again can be a tool, but it can also be a hindrance. Chris Willock is finding his feet still. I think he needs to do more. I really do. I think the talent's there. I think he's sensational on his best day. But he needs to be able to find that consistency. But then with him, is it difficult? Because I don't think, if you asked him, where do you want to play? Or where's your best position? I'm not sure he says as a winger. So that makes that difficult. Graham says, too much chopping and changing. No time to strike any partnership with each other. Paul says, that was the injuries one, sorry. Brian says, in the whole game, O'Dowda played left back behind Alves and was encouraging and advising him all game. Last night, NG was behind Alves, and I don't think he found him once. It's tricky, isn't it? It's tricky. But they should be leading and they should be helping these young players. And I think O'Dowda, the one thing you can say is this year he's shown signs of leadership qualities. He is one who's tried to do the right things and get this team and this crowd going and this football club functioning. Alex says Willock and Mayte coming on was criminal. And Martin says Luton worked Salic out, no players supported him. Well, this is the thing, isn't it? And this is something that we've talked about previously, but let's talk about it again. Yusuf Salic. There's two things, not just two things, but two things which really stand out about him from the moment he got you. Is if you put the ball in the box, he will hit the target. He does a lot of good work between the posts, a lot of good movement, gets on the end of crosses, causes defenders headaches. He presses well, and his link-up play is decent. But if he's isolated, he hasn't got the pace maybe to get away and carry the ball. So you need runners off him. You need the wide players, the number 10, to be close by and running in behind. And Cardiff is such a static team. The lack of movement is astounding sometimes. Because that's the very basic, one of the first things you learn as a kid, pass and move. And I see such static footballers. And, you know, I saw on social media today some people saying the players are not doing what Omar Risa wants them to do. It's got to be on the players. I do think players generally, not necessarily the Cardiff City players, but players as a whole, get away with all sorts sometimes because it's always the manager who bites the bullet. It's always the manager who gets sacked. It's always the manager who pays the price. And sometimes it's on the players. Now, last night, after 20 minutes, when it was clearly not good enough, too slow, no movement, if Omar Risa didn't want us to play at that sort of slow pace, try and control the game with possession, then he should have been on the touchline screaming at those players, telling them, do as I've told you, or do as we've discussed, do as you've been instructed, or you'll be off the pitch. Because that's what a manager does. If you're not following the instructions of the manager, then you come off. Which makes me think, I have no insight, directly into it, and just speculating, that the plan was to kind of control the game with possession, which that in itself is a problem for me. It really is, because this game was a game where Cardiff City needed to start fast, needed to be aggressive, needed to really push on and put Luton under pressure. Luton would have crumbled if we'd had a couple of early goals. But what Luton did is they out-battled Cardiff City, but also they were brave. Luton committed players forward. They moved off the ball. But most importantly, when they fought to win the ball, they moved it quickly. There was no sideways, backwards. It was moved quickly. And they tried to progress through the phases and through the thirds as quick as possible. And use the physicality that they had up front. They had two big, strong forwards with some skillful players around them. And they tried to utilize that. Round pegs in round holes. And that is this is where I believe there's a disconnect. Jamie says, deep standoff space left for the opposition is unreal. We need to get closer. Paul says, I feel the biggest thing Reset needs is to find consistent team lineups, pick players on form, not favoritism. It's interesting, isn't it? Because is it a case of favourites? I don't know. Like with the Gutas thing. So I was told, someone who I trust greatly, told me that I'm wrong about Gutas's form, and he's been our best defender consistently. I fully, wholeheartedly disagree with it. I respect his opinion, but I think for the last 6 weeks, something hasn't been quite right with Gutas. Whereas others have been in form, as we've discussed. But is he being... I don't know, again, I'm speculating, but is he continued to be picked because he hasn't signed his contract yet? They want him to sign a contract, so they're trying to encourage him by giving him as much playing time as possible. I don't know. I mean, it could be a reason. I would hope that's not the reason, because, he's cost us a goal yesterday. However way you look at it, you try and frame it. It's a problem, isn't it? I'll put this question to you, the people. Do you guys think, one, Omar Risa will see out the season at Cardiff City? Do you think he's still the manager for the Blackburn game? Genuinely interested. And if you were in charge, would you make a change now? Or would you risk it and leave it till the summer? Big risk. Because at the moment, that was a performance that looked like some people had given up or had resigned themselves to going down. It was a strange old performance from top to bottom. So I do know, what I can tell you is I know that there was some very honest conversations between the playing squad, the manager, the coaches, everything. They had it out last night. There's no two ways about it, which you'd expect, absolutely expect. And now they have to turn it around and be ready for Saturday. Because, yes, look, they owe the fans a performance. But it's not even about that anymore. Like, you've got to... Don't go down with a whimper, would be my message always. Like, if Cardiff City get relegated, they'll get relegated because they deserve to get relegated. But don't go down without a fight. And that's criminal. And last night was without a fight. You look at the way Luton Town reacted to going 1-0 down. They continued to be brave. They continued to fight for every ball. They continued to commit players forward, which led to chances, mistakes. Great goal, by the way, their first goal. Sometimes you just got to say, pick that one out. But, let me ask you guys this again. If we'd held on with that 1-0 lead for another couple of minutes, so I think we scored 52, they scored 57. Say we'd held out to 60 minutes. Was anyone else worried that we were going to switch to 5 at the back and try and hold in? Because that was my fear. Whereas when we scored, my first thought was, right, now go and play. Go and win this football match. You can relax a little bit because you've scored. Go and play. And we never got going. Jamie says, Risa said he addressed it at full time with the players. Now they know. They should have known before yesterday. Shouldn't have taken that performance. Tim O'Brien says, Risa gives too much respect to certain senior players, even out of form, and his coaches. He doesn't know how to lead or have the conviction in himself. He's not a boss. I mean, look, it's difficult to fully make that assessment without being partial to the day-to-day. What I would say is, and I've said it and I'll say it again, this squad shouldn't be where they are in the league. So somewhere along the lines it is going wrong. Jonathan says, we haven't looked the same at set pieces since the first of Errol Bullett's coaches left. He was probably the best one of his coaches by the results that followed. But we didn't replace them, did we? That's the problem. Is, when these coaches left, so you had the set piece coach left, the assistant manager left, both very highly regarded in the world of football. We have not replaced them. We've brought in Darren Pearce up from the academy. And Tom Ramasalt was obviously already there. And then we've brought in Richard Shaw sort of late on, which, in fairness to Richard Shaw, I think between him and Darren Pearce, they seem to have got hold of a defence a little bit. And we looked a little bit more solid, but then that fell away. Individual mistakes can happen, but collectively, there seems to be a focus issue, concentration issue when we are defending. Collectively, we switch off. Nadir Somnes was the I think it was Bullett's assistant. He's really highly rated coach. We didn't replace him. You know, Tom Ramassol, Darren Pearce, Richard Shaw, Omar Issa, with the greatest of respect. You know, all have certain qualities, excellent at certain things. You know, some of them had really good playing careers, excellent playing careers in some cases, you know, playing at the top level. But there's not much experience there. And this is something which I said in, you know, January, before, when Omar Issa first came in as a interim manager, when they gave him the job till the summer. You have to give him an experienced head to bounce ideas off, to show him. So he's learning. Let's look at it in the most basic way. Omar Issa is learning his way as a football manager. Darren Pearce is on his own journey as well, you know, in terms of coaching. Sure, at some point he'll want to be a manager somewhere. So they're both learning. Tom Ramasol's coach, not sure what his long-term plans are, but he's, you know, a young coach. Gavin Ward came in to be the goalkeeper coach, right? But who's Omar Issa? Who is Omar Issa learning from? Because there's no experienced football person at the football club for him to learn from. There's no director of football. There's no technical director. He wasn't given like an experienced assistant or something like that. So when he's made mistakes, or even if you don't just put it on Risa and you say when the coach and the backroom staff collectively have made mistakes, there isn't that experienced head to help them out and give them advice and say, oh, this happened to me once. This is how I got around it. Whatever, like simple things. Experience is a big thing because, you know, anyone who's got kids who are like teenagers or older, like myself, you're able to offer advice on certain things because you've already lived it. It's no different. And I can't remember a manager or I wanted it to work as much as I want it to work for Omar Issa. I genuinely wanted it to work for him. And last night has really, and you know, anyone who watches my content regularly knows I've been steadfast all season. We won't go down. We're too good to go down. There'll definitely be 3 worse teams than us. But when push came to shove, in one of the most winnable games of the season in terms of quality of the opposition, with the greatest of respect to Luton Town, home game, under the lights, go and win the football match. You know, we weren't like barraged with so many injuries that we could barely field a side. We had some really, really good footballers out on that pitch at the start. And it just wasn't there. So that's an issue. I look at the starting lineup, from yesterday. And I'm going to name a few off the top of my head. Callum O'Dowda, Will Fish, Perry Ng, Aaron Ramsey, Callum Chambers, Ruben Colwell, Alves. All of those players have already shown this season and through their careers that technically they're phenomenal footballers. Very, very capable footballers. Very skillful footballers. They are more than capable of popping a ball round at speed. So why weren't they doing it? Is it an instruction? Is it a disconnect? Like, is it the message? Something's getting lost in between the training pitch, the dressing room, and the matches, because fundamentally, that starting 11 should have been able to outplay Luton from a footballing point of view. No one can convince me otherwise. Like, they should have been able to. I mean, you know, Aaron Ramsey, as we've seen him do it at the tip-top level, quick, interchanging passes. Now, yes, of course, he hasn't got the pace he once had. Still got the brain, still got the passing range. Callum O'Dowda, Callum Chambers, one of the few to come out with any credit last night. He's a technically really good footballer. Got a really good first touch. He's very, very good footballers. So there's a disconnect and a breakdown fundamentally at some point. We'll be back in just a second for this week's Fan View. Join us.
You're listening to Cymru Sport.
So we've had enough of me talking, especially as we had some audio issues with the Greg Halford interview. But I'm delighted to welcome, for the first time, to Cymru Sport and Cardiff City. We hadn't been on Cardiff City World for a while. It is none other than Mr. Wayne Dibbs Anderson. How are you, mate?
Hey, hiya, mate. How are you? Okay. Good to see you. Good to meet. Good to have a chat.
I know, innit? It's good, mate. It's well, I wish it was under better circumstances. I've got to be honest, because I was so excited about yesterday, mate. I was genuinely looking forward to the game. I felt like there's been certain things brewing, and I felt like it was coming a little bit. I just thought we'd go and play and outplay Luton Town, and we didn't, did we?
Oh, it was awful, wasn't it? Absolutely awful. When you looked at it, there was just nothing there at all, was it? It was, I don't know whether nerves have started to kick in and the pressure, but about a few games ago, it seemed like that there was some changes there and with personnel, and when you look at Chambers had gone from the back to the midfield and things like that, you thought, wow, well, actually, there's something happening here. But when you looked at it last night, I got to be honest, I thought, and just look at the delight on the Luton players at the end of that game, and I saw the highlights with Derby. That they all seem to be up for the fight. Where you're looking at our boys now, and you think they're sort of just deflated, and they're just they're either under so much, putting themselves under pressure, and you look at it and it's so obvious. Everyone says, oh, the team are too good as individuals and everything. But they're just not performing as a team, and you've only got to look at the league at the amount of goals conceded to everyone else. That they say like anything, it starts from the back. But God Almighty, the amount of goals and some of the goals that we've conceded in years past, we were fantastic from set pieces, and and half of our defence were in the top goal scorers for scoring from set pieces at the other end as well. So it's not. Those
defensive mistakes have cost us a lot of points since Christmas, haven't they? Like late goals and just switching off completely. I mean, even in this last week, we gifted Burnley two goals, gave them a 2-goal head start. Where with a lot of ball watching. Saturday was it a minute? Yeah, and again yesterday, the first goal is a good goal. Don't get me wrong, but that second goal is another sloppy one.
And the one where comes to mind, where there was absolutely a fantastic support, great midweek, you think it'd be really up for it, was Portsmouth. Absolutely. That first half was absolutely awful. Again as well, and you look at that stadium, albeit that they played Leeds on Sunday, it was absolutely rocking. That the position where they are in the league, and that state that they were, but prior to them scoring, early kickoff down there, and the place was absolutely bouncing, so right behind the team.
Wayne, throughout the season, like, where have you stood in terms of how you felt about relegation? Have you been relatively confident, or have you, felt like we were in danger of it?
Funny enough, I was having a conversation with one of the guys today about it, and I have been a glass half empty rather than a glass half full. You look at it and you think, you get that result, that draw or the win, and you think, there hasn't been a run which has actually then said, yeah, I'm totally confident. And I was talking to Twisty Stephen, Richards, when a friend. He has been absolutely optimistic all season, and in our group chat earlier on, it was the first time I've seen it. I'm starting to see him crack as well now, and thinking, I'm not quite so sure.
Yeah, also all season I've been really confident that we'd stay up. I even thought that once Omar Risa came in, I actually thought we'd go up and do quite well. Yeah. I look at this team and just think individually there's so many good footballers there.
Yeah.
Where do you think the disconnect is, mate? Like, where do you think is breaking down? Is it as simple as the pressure's too much, or is it tactically, or because I look at the footballers who started yesterday, and I cannot believe that they couldn't move the ball fast and move off the ball and things, very basic stuff.
But I was looking at I went obviously to the cup game Stoke, and like Alves as well, absolutely came in and storming it. But you're starting to see where those players who have even come in, you sort of think are getting dragged down. They are getting dragged down into it. But I just look at it from the defense. I look at it, I'm one of these guys who loves the old-fashioned wingers and getting that ball in. But for the majority of the season, we haven't had anyone at the end, to be able to get the, to knock the balls, in any way. There hasn't been anyone there who's been good enough in the air. And till the recent side is Alec or whatever, that are actually being able to get to receive the ball. And it's funny because you looked at the even right at the very beginning, I thought, my God, our football was absolutely slow. I remember like the Sunderland game, and the ball was going forward and then it was going back, and there was no attacking down the lines or anything. And then it changed for a short while, and then it went backwards again. And then we had a change of manager, and you think, oh, this is going to be, a little bit different now. And then you sort of see those little bits of sort of shoots and and then it's like, oh, hang on a second. No, we got to go back again, and it's, the like what you said earlier on, the pace of the game, the play and everything. It's it's so boring. And I'll be honest with you. There's a couple of times like you've got it as your team, and that will never go away. But you're going along and you're thinking, my God, I'm paying money to be entertained, and I'm not lying. And I hadn't been on the drink or anything. There was one. I had a busy night the night before. I fell asleep in the game. I actually fell asleep in it, and I hadn't had a drink. I hadn't had a drink. I hadn't had a night before. I wasn't hungover. Yes, I was a bit tired from working the night before, but God Almighty, you shouldn't fall asleep in a game.
No.
Unless you've had too much alcohol or whatever.
I think the other aspect of it is obviously the entertainment. I think the atmospheres this year have been harmed by partially. Look, I think the football last year, as the season went on, was very difficult to watch. So I think that. And then with the Sky deal, which makes all the games available to watch on a Tuesday night and a Saturday lunchtime, it's absolutely killed the crowds. And when we've performed the way we have, it's very difficult to dig those people out. Of
course it is. And I've literally just come from work now, and there's quite I'm in a very good sort of position, that the fact that I actually work for it, people don't know me work at a football club as well. And, they all, sort of know me as and generally, that most of the people there are, are either, being in Bridgend or either Cardiff or Swansea. And I got the Jacks sort of laughing, and Guardian saying, "Oh my God, wasn't it awful? Wasn't it awful?" And you are seeing some of them are just, they're saying, "Oh, I'm watching it on Sky. I'm watching it on Sky because the fact is it's saving me the money, and and just watching it at home because I can't, literally cannot be bothered to go and watch it." And you look at it, you look at the family stand. God Almighty, you could put them in a. I think you could put them behind the dugout.
It's a problem. Like Martin in the chat has just said, it's the same for every team, and not every team has had that issue. But I do think that there's a knock-on effect of not just Errol Bullett's football last year. I think that does contribute. But I also think the knock-on effect of we've been very lucky to avoid relegation. That one season, if it's not for Reading getting docked those points, we go down.
Yes.
And ultimately, if you keep flirting with relegation, it will catch up with you.
Well, of course it will. It's only a question of time, unless there's dramatic changes, and I mean absolutely wholesome changes. It's going to be the same year on year, and whatever happens, I absolutely dread it. That that if God forbid if we were relegated, I under the regime of I think we'd still be the same ownership. It'll still be the same management at the club. I can't see it being like us being like a Birmingham and bouncing back up. And people say, "Oh, we're too big a club to go." That's absolute rubbish. Look at Leeds United a few years ago, Sheffield United, Sheffield Wednesday. Their average attendances and crowds are far bigger than ours. And being a big club isn't just about that side of it, about your supporter and fan base. And I dread to think what it would be like. I actually think next year what you'd see is the attendance is going down on the home. I would say
on the away.
Up on the away, because of the fact of the novelty factor of people going to different towns and new towns and different grounds and everything like that. And I actually say, you look at it, our away support this season, considering what
sensational.
It's been fantastic. It's been absolutely amazing. When there's games that you've gone to where we're sold out, absolutely sold out. But then it just questions of the fact that a lot of people it's a full day out and they're going out. It's the enjoyment of being out with their friends and the social side of it as well. But you just, it's a perfect example. Is the ease of driving when you're driving into the stadium area and driving home. Besides last night when the M4 was closed and the A4 was closed, absolutely absurd. But it's when you're coming out of either, I normally park at by Canton Rugby Club. You're straight out and you're out onto the concrete road.
It's a big issue, because if Cardiff City get relegated, we catastrophic for the club. Yeah. But you don't have a divine right to stay up, and these players, the coaches, the manager, the football club need to really get that into their heads that you do not have a divine right to stay up. Yeah. Because at the moment, the teams around us look like they've discovered a bit of fight, and apart from Stoke.
Yes.
But I mean, what happens when teams are out of form and they come and play Cardiff? They normally beat us.
Yeah.
So Stoke are probably itching for it.
Yeah, the games that we've said, we should get the points, that whether it's home or away, it's been the ones where we come away, as you say, come away with absolutely nothing. It was Luton away to, and Luton at home, they've done an absolute job. And funny enough, one of the fathers up at the football club, he's a season ticket holder at Luton, and he held his optimism for last night was like that. It was zero, and yesterday he was finding him saying, right, that's it, we're relegated. And then he said he saw the fight in his last night, and the delight and the sheer just the camaraderie amongst the players.
It's a definite issue for Cardiff that the other teams around us are finding that togetherness. Now Cardiff need to find a way to get that, to get in, particularly with this international break. Now they need to go and get what they can get from Saturday. And then in the international break, my advice would be go and do something together or whatever, like a team bonding. They have to find a way to get on the same page and be together, because ultimately what we're seeing at the moment is simply not good enough.
Absolutely. Well, it is, and the results after, 36 games, 37 games, 36 games is, it and as they say, when you're at the top or where the league table doesn't lie,
it doesn't.
And there just has not been any consistency. And it has been like you think, one step forward. It's been one step forward, two step back. It's been that scenario.
Wayne, it's been a pleasure, mate. And we'll get you on next time when we got a little bit more time. But I really appreciate you. In one word, mate, will Cardiff City stay up this year?
This is Cymru Sports.
Oh, God almighty. Heart and head. Can I answer it? My heart says I bloody hope so. My head says I don't think so.
Good man. Wayne, it's a pleasure, mate. Thank you very much for joining me.
No problem.
I'll see you soon. Guys, next up, we have the Welsh Football Hour, so stick with us, where we'll be talking the squad announcement. We'll also be talking the Welsh Cup semi-finals and the JD Cymru.
The home of Welsh sports. This is Cymru Sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Wednesday, it's 8 o'clock. This is the Welsh Football Hour, where we talk all things Welsh football, from the EFL clubs to the national team to the Welsh leagues,
the home of Welsh
and anything
sports.
In between.
This is Cymru Sports.
Grassroots football, nothing is off limits. It's all things Welsh football. And I will be joined by Geraint in a little bit. I'm hoping to be joined by someone else as well. Unfortunately, Ian Gwyn Hughes was due to join me for the first half an hour, and however, he had a scheduling issue, so I had to pull out. But he should be here next week, which is really good. I'm really looking forward to speaking to Ian.
The home of Welsh
wealth
sports.
Of experience in
this
broadcast media.
With sports.
Works for the Welsh FA now. But let's delve into the national team. The Wales squad was announced today. And let me tell you something, by the way, sticking with Cardiff, I wonder how Ruben Colwell feels today. Always kind of a scapegoat in many people's eyes. Not in the Welsh squad today, despite playing regular championship football.
The home of Welsh sports. This is Cymru Sports.
Aston Villa. Aaron Ramsey pulls out through injury, as well as Harry Wilson being out. No place for Ruben Colwell, but there was a place for a 17-year-old teenager from the under-19s who's playing, with Coventry, but he's playing on loan in Scotland at the moment. I do wonder how Ruben feels about that. Now, no one's got a divine right to be in the squad, but it does make me wonder.
The home of Welsh sports.
Will he consider
this is Cymru Sports.
Difficult, because I have to say, Omar Risa. I think Ruben Colwell wants to play football for Wales and play at the highest level. I think I don't think Craig Bellamy's been wrong much in anything he's done or said in his time as Welsh manager. I think he's hit everything on hit the nail on the head for everything. However,
the home of Welsh sports.
I'm not sure
this
when
is
you've
Cymru
got
Sports.
Harry Wilson, Ampadu, Wes Burns, Norrington Davis, plus you have Aaron Ramsey pull out. I just think Ruben Colwell should be in that squad. Like, it's an opinion, but I can't really understand the logic to him not being in there. I think he provides an option. He can play as
the
an 8.
home of Welsh sports. This is Cymru Sports.
But, you know, who am I to question Craig Bellamy? He's made an incredible Raven. What a day. What a day. Should be better. So, I just... there we go. Welsh Football Hour. Welcome to Cymru Sport. We had a little dance to start off the evening. It's been one of those. The audio's been playing up this evening. I apologise. So, the Wales squad has been announced. A lot of players out, including, you know, Aaron Ramsey pulled out, Harry Wilson's out, Ampadu, Wes Burns, Norrington Davis, all unavailable. I wonder how Ruben Colwell feels today, knowing that all those players are out. He's playing regular Championship football, you know, put an eye-catching performance in the number 8 position against Aston Villa on TV and in the Cup. Not selected, but a under-19s lad who's on loan up in Scotland from Coventry is selected, Kai Andrews, you know, and I'm sure, you know, Kai Andrews could go on and be the best footballer Wales has ever seen. It's not a dig at him in any way. What I'm asking the question is, Ruben Colwell, often the scapegoat for some Cardiff fans. How does he feel now? Does he need to move to pastures new to fulfill his Welsh dreams and ambitions? At the end of the day, he's going to want to play at the top level. He wants to play for Wales. I was surprised he wasn't in the squad. I got to be honest. I think Tom Lawrence deserves his spot back in the squad. You know, I understand the logic in taking Joe Allen to a certain degree, especially with Aaron Ramsey out. You need like an experienced head in a very young squad. But again, I would ask the question, would you be disappointed if you're Ruben? I think I probably would be. And will that have a long-term impact on his Cardiff City future? But ultimately, you got to perform. No one is the divine right to be in the Welsh squad. You have to earn it. And look, it's going to be a difficult period for Wales with so many important players out. Ethan Ampadu, for those who don't know, in my opinion, it'd be a massive miss. Harry Wilson's been excellent this season, particularly under Craig Bellamy, but he's been very, very good. You know, Aaron Ramsey unfortunately misses out. I still think the group is relatively favourable, but these first couple of games do become a little bit more tricky with the players out that you've got. We, of course, on Cardiff City World will have the Cymru Ambyl podcast returning with Harry, where we discuss the Welsh football in detail. But for this evening on the Welsh Football Hour, we're going to dig into it. I mean, give me your opinions. Is Ruben Colwell unlucky, or ultimately Cardiff City have been that bad this year that he doesn't deserve that call-up? I don't know where I stand on it, because, you know, I look at, and this is, again, no disrespect to any of the players, I look at some of the players in the squad and I think, you know, could Ruben be in there on form and talent alone? It's difficult, isn't it? However, it will be fascinating what happens with Ruben Colwell, because I am Keane Ashford as well. I believe I believe that Ruben Colwell will go and probably thrive somewhere else. That's my personal opinion. It's not based on anything. I just think for his own development, for his own ambitions, I've got a feeling he might go and I think if he was to go to a Premier League team, I think he'll absolutely shine, by the way. We just don't seem to be able to get the best out of him. And, you know, a top player, you need to be able to perform regardless. So, that's one of those things. He's going to be fit and ready for Cardiff City, so that's good for them. Any surprises in this Welsh squad? So the full squad: Danny Ward of Leicester, Carl Darlow of Leeds, Adam Davis of Sheffield United, Ben Davis of Spurs, Joe Rodon of Leeds, Chris Meepham of Sunderland, or on loan from Bournemouth, Ben Cabango, Connor Roberts, Nico Williams, Jay De Silva, Tom Lawrence of Rangers, Joe Allen of Swansea, Josh Sheenan of Bolton Wanderers, Jordan James of Stade Rennais, Josh Sheenan from Bolton. Sorry, I said him already. Ollie Cooper from Swansea City. Kai Andrews, Motherwell on loan from Coventry. Sorba Thomas, David Brooks, Kiefer Moore, Brennan Johnson, Daniel James, Liam Cullen, Nathan Broadhead, Mark Harris, Lewis Kumas, and Rabi Matondo. Look, it's still a strong squad. And I think it's a testament to what Wales have built over the last few years with the young players coming through, that he's been able to still pick such a strong squad full of young, energetic, talented footballers. It's just it's one of those where you look at it and you just think, Ethan Ampadu is such an important player for Wales because he can do it all. He's great on the ball, great off the ball, can slot in as a three in the back four. He can play in the back four. I think he's been playing defence for Leeds a lot. I like him as defensive midfielder for Wales. I think that's his best position. I think him and Jordan James as the two for Wales in midfield is a long-term recipe for success. But obviously, Craig Bellamy likes to vary up his formation depending on home and away or the opposition. He's gone with a very attacking six pivot and 2/8s with Liam Cullen as one, where they're almost by nature two number 10s, but they play as 8s. He played, Liam Cullen and Harry Wilson as number 8s. It's very attacking, but it worked for him. And when you've got people like Nico Williams who've got 50 caps under their belt now, it's exciting times for Welsh football fans. We just talked about the Cardiff City Stadium during the first hour. It won't be empty come the 22nd of March. It'll be absolutely rocking. And the ground and everything's been excellent. The atmosphere for those Welsh games has been excellent. And let's have a look at some of the comments because I'm interested in what people are saying. Excuse me. Jonathan says Ruben Colwell needs to simplify his game. He don't need the extra touch. Take it around someone or try something pretty. The pass is on, pass, and if the shot is on, shoot. Don't mess around and lose the ball. Paul says, I agree. International football will find him out very quick. Jamie says, Colwell is better off staying here for his injury-free and be raring to go. Imagine if he picked up a knock for Wales. Reese says, look at Sparky. People say he's not been great this year, but he's still in the Wales setup. What would that have happened here if he had possibly stayed at Cardiff? I mean, it's a fair point. Paul says Cardiff need Jordan James. Yeah, I mean, that was the one I was saying last summer. They should have broke the bank for him. Reese Lasky says that likely Ruben would do well elsewhere. Often attackers seem to struggle at our club, and most will find more prolific seasons elsewhere before or after playing for us. I just think we haven't been able to get Cardiff City haven't been able to get the best out of Ruben Colwell for whatever reason. But I also think, like so many things at that football club, he's almost set up to fail sometimes with the people and the movement around him and things like that. I have no doubt that if he goes to the Premier League or a top championship club, they will absolutely thrive and people will be questioning why he was sold or why we weren't able to get that out of him. It's one of those things. But obviously, Craig Bellamy long-term views him as a number 8. So I was a little bit surprised that he didn't make the squad considering the injuries. But I mean, Tom Lawrence gives a lot of versatility in terms of he can play in a 10, he can play wide, he can play as an 8 or maybe even a 6. I'm very excited for Kai Andrews. Young Welsh lad, really. He's only played one game for the under-19s, I believe, and impressive physicality, technical ability. It's exciting, very exciting times for Wales. When you look at the young players in the 19s and the 21s, there's so much talent there. It's hard not to be excited by the Welsh national team because there's just this abundance of footballers. You've got Biancheri at United in the development setup who looks the real deal. He left Cardiff to go there. I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the Welsh setup sooner than later, simply because I know Italy have been sniffing around him, so it would make sense to cap him. Although I do believe I don't buy into what some people have made that comparison with Lewis Kumas, that they felt that's why he got capped because he hasn't played much since. But I slightly disagree with that. Lewis Kumas is playing first team football regularly in the Championship, whereas Biancheri is playing development football at United, despite doing very well. So I think it's probably unlikely that he's in the first team anytime soon. It's going to be fascinating to see how the Wales 19s, 21s, etc., how it all pans out going forward, and which players really push on into the first team and whatnot. Because and for the Cardiff fans who are still within the chat, you should be excited by that, because a lot of the players are from Cardiff. There's a lot of Cardiff players in these young age groups. Let's just have a quick look at the under-21 squad. Some exciting players in there again. Matty Jones has done an excellent job with Wales's under-21s. And one day I would really like to interview Matty Jones because I think he's done a tremendous job. A really interesting chap. Really, really good footballer as well, by the way. Very underrated. Be interesting to see how Wales do with these upcoming fixtures. Big names out, but big players out. A home game against Kazakhstan on the 22nd, followed by an away game to North Macedonia. Would you be happy if you took 4 points from that? Or does it have to be 6? I think you would mainly got to win your home games, I think. But I think the group is quite not favourable, but it's a decent group for Wales. It's just whether they can deal with these injuries early doors to see if they can then manage it going forward, But how do you think Craig Bellamy will set up in that home game? Do you think he'll go with that single pivot and the kind of 2 attacking 8s? Because I'm not sure if Cullen's probably one of them. Who would be the other one? Or does he go for a more traditional kind of lineup? Because you've got Daniel James back and his pace allows a lot of versatility in your attacking shapes and your attacking plans. So it's that's another element to it. That pace is very dangerous. This weekend we have the JD Welsh Cup semi-finals. We also have regular coverage on Cymru Sport of the JD Cymru League. We'll be bringing Geraint on in just a second to discuss the Welsh League and the Welsh Cup semi-finals as well. In fact, why don't we bring Geraint in now? Because we've had these issues with the bugs in the system. So let's bring Geraint in. Evening, Geraint. How are you, my friend?
Good evening. I'm fine. Speaking of bugs in the system, let's bring Geraint in. So
there we are. Bugs in the system today, mate, I tell you. How are you?
It's one of those days. It's one of those days, isn't it? We
Oh,
had a
yes.
little discussion before off football, but yeah, it's some days are for living, other days are for getting through. So yeah, it's quite a busy weekend of sorts all around in Welsh football this weekend, and we're coupling we are going to cover a couple of the games. I mean, if you want to start talking about the Welsh Cup, it's at the
Yes.
semi-final stage. It's been quite an exciting time, I think, for fans of Welsh football, because the Premier clubs have been falling by the wayside. There's only two left in the semi-finals, and they've managed to miss each other. One of them, of course, is TNS. TNS being really the only professional team that's in the Welsh pyramid as it stands, and TNS are going to be playing Cymbrian United, or Cambrian United. I think they like to be called Cambrian, which is based in Clydach Vale up the Rhondda. And I when they were known as Cambrian and Clydach Boys and Girls Club, I went a few times last season in the Cymru South. They are. Let's see how it goes on. TNS, they wobbled when they were in Europe. I don't think they were used to having to have, in effect, two squads. And although they're 15 points clear at the top of the table now, admittedly having played a mere one game more, if you look at the stats, the reason they are is because the other two, there are three teams up there who have all lost 5 games: TNS, Penabont, and Haverfordwest County. And the difference between the three teams is that TNS have not drawn a game and the others have. And that's where the big point gap is. So TNS are not infallible. They've lost at home this season to Carnarvon, but it's a tough ask for Cymbrian United. They'll give it a good shot. It's in Aberystwyth on Sunday at 12:45 kickoff, and I'm going to be elsewhere because I know it will be covered. Expect a lot of noisy Cymbrian fans to come up to Aberystwyth for a day by the sea. Best of luck, really. Be good to see some new name on the trophy. The other semi-final is possibly more closer. Connah's Quay Nomads, who have been the second best team in Wales for a long time, struggling in the bottom half this season, or struggling to get out of the bottom half. They finished in the relegation zone in effect, but they're nowhere near any danger of going down. They are facing Llanelli Town. And Llanelli Town are currently top of the Cymru South, and they've got a very, very exciting, certainly exciting front line since they managed to acquire Liam Eason from Pontypridd United, and also they have quite a sharp, a fast striker called Ethan Can. The two of them linking up is quite exciting to watch. So, will they take over the Nomads? It's quite possible. I mean, Llanelli's ambitions are such that they should be looking to beat teams like Connah's Quay. So that's on Saturday. That will be a very interesting game in itself. I can't remember what time the kickoff is. Bear with me. Just have a look. 12:30 again. So that's in Aberystwyth too. So we've got lots of football fans having day by the seaside, especially as also it's Welsh Cup semi-final in the women's game this weekend. And one of the games is in Aberystwyth. TNS ladies are playing Cardiff City women. And you've got to, you never talk about Cardiff City women, actually. This isn't a bit of a nag, but maybe one time you could talk to somebody like Ian Derbyshire.
Yeah, I've got a couple of guests lined up on the Cardiff City women front, actually, but just waiting for the time to be right. Tell you what, Geraint, I'm just going to stop you there because I've got a last-minute guest has joined us in Lawrence Moore's Talk Sports Welsh correspondent. So I'm just going to bring Lawrence back in, mate, or in, should I say, not back in, just so we can flip over to just to get his thoughts on the Welsh squad announcement today. and then I'll bring you back in. Lawrence Mora, welcome, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, really good, Si. How are you? You keeping well?
Yeah, not too bad. Hell of a day today. Very interesting, to say the least. But, one of them. You roll with the punches, as they say.
Absolutely, mate.
Welsh squad announcement today, mates. How did how did it all go? What was the general feeling, etc.?
Yeah, well, first of all, it was really good to see to have the international football back, wasn't it? It's so I miss it personally during the sort of long winter break, and it kind of I think it's a little bit too long. That autumn is really intense. We did fantastically well in the Nations League. That night against Iceland to claim promotion to League A, and you think that's fantastic. And then there's nothing, a big void of nothing. So Craig Bellamy apparently has been filling his time, visiting clubs. He's been doing lots of work at the FAW. He's been doing tours, the fan engagement around the country, and visiting loads of players as well. So yeah, it was good to see him. He was in good form and looked really keen to get going. So the first squad was one of injuries, quite frankly, wasn't it? That was the big issue. And I'm sure that you guys have already covered the Aaron Ramsey situation on Cardiff City's part. So yeah, we didn't think. I was there last night, and just seeing his face when he sort of realised that he'd picked up that injury, just looked distraught, and really, really disappointed for him.
Yeah, he looked genuinely just upset. You could tell that he knew that it was not only like a strain or whatever, that it was something that was going to keep him out for a while.
Yeah,
it's so unfortunate because he's looked quite sharp in a team which is obviously struggling, and it's been a while since he's been able to represent Wales. There's a few big injuries for Wales, mate, but I was just sort of went through the squad at the start of the show. It's some interesting, some still real exciting players in there, and some interesting players.
Yeah, well, that was one of the things we chatted about in terms of questions with Craig, and he talked about Nico Williams and just what an incredible season he's had. He sort of really praised Nottingham Forest and the style of play that they're producing at the moment, and just as Nico's flexibility, his character, the way he holds himself, the way he thinks about the game, and his game intelligence just makes him an absolutely outstanding Premier League player. And he thinks that he's on his way back to the top. Now, he didn't say maybe with another club, but when Nottingham Forest are doing as well as they are and potentially Champions League football next season, then that is a fantastic place to be, isn't it, for a Welsh player? Of course, he's going to be missing Harry Wilson, which is a real blow because he was such a main player for the last sort of 12 to 18 months for Wales. Certainly since Bale finished up playing, he's really come to the fore. But on the flip side of that, David Brooks has been absolutely fantastic down at Portsmouth. Superb. He's been blowing. He's got his place in that central midfield. He plays a little bit deeper than he does for Wales. Links up with Iraiola's team. So it'll be interesting to see how Craig utilises him. Craig was talking kind of in glowing terms, actually, about Andoni Iraola, the Bournemouth manager, and the way that he's got them playing and how Brooksy kind of fits into that system. So it'll be really interesting to see him come in. And then the other player that we discussed was Kai Andrews. And I think there would have been lots of Wales fans kind of reaching for Google and trying to find out who the hell Kai Andrews was. But he's a really good prospect. Big unit, plays central midfield, really athletic. So exactly that kind of position we've got some problems in terms of personnel. And then spoke to Chris Gunter as well afterwards, and he kind of gave us a bit of a lowdown on Kai and the progress he's been making with the under-19s. He's 18 years old at the moment. Coventry City on loan up at Motherwell, and apparently Joe Allen is going to be mentoring him through the next couple of weeks while he's on camp. So couldn't think of a better coach, could you, in that respect, and somebody to work with?
No, not at all. I mean, it was obviously a surprise inclusion, but I like that, Craig Bellamy has been out and about, and he's clearly paid close attention to when he went to watch the under-19s. So he's very hands-on in terms of looking at players. one thing that I did sort of speculate and discuss a little bit earlier was I wonder how Ruben Colwell's feeling this morning, being in all right form, but also, off the back of a very impressive performance versus Villa, not in the squads. Obviously sees a young guy coming in, and there's all sorts of things going on at Cardiff, and who knows what will be going on in the summer. But did he come up at all in the conversations? Because I know Craig wants a bit more from him in certain aspects.
So I was at a press conference in the autumn where Rob Phillips brought up Ruben Colwill, and Craig, in the way that Craig does, what is it with Ruben? What is it? Why do I always get asked about Ruben? What's going on? I think he's been quite straight in terms of how he feels Ruben needs to improve, quite straight in terms of saying that he's got to do more and he's got to progress faster. Filling him full of praise in terms of his qualities, but I just think he doesn't necessarily suit exactly what Craig's looking for. When you look at the players that he is selecting in that front line, you've got your Dan Jameses, you've got obviously Brooks, you've got the Harris, and you've got Cullen. He's brought in Rabbi Matondo, Tom Lawrence. These are all players with pace, who are chase, who have got the physique to be quick players around the pitch and dynamic. I just don't think he sees that in Ruben. And I think he feels that, look, again, I suppose if you want to take last night's game into example, the first half, Ruben was just way off it. Perhaps it was where he was being played by Reza. That's a reasonable argument, but it did feel like he wasn't in the game until he kind of came a little bit more central in the second half. But even then, his tracking wasn't quite there. And yeah, look, I think Ruben is a real crossroads in his career, and I'm hoping he takes some leaps forward. But I certainly think at international level, until those leaps come, I don't think he's going to be in the team or squad even. Sorry.
I think it's really interesting to me because I said similar. I actually think he might leave Cardiff. I do, just simply for his own progression, because Cardiff don't seem to be able to get the best out of him. And I think when you see how he performed against Aston Villa, it's clearly there. Like, I don't think anyone's doubting his ability. It was interesting that he's been played a bit deeper and he did quite well. And then last night they moved him back further forward, or out wide first and then central, and he didn't do as well. So I'm assuming it's probably quite difficult being moved around as well. So I just wouldn't be shocked for a Premier League club to pick him up and him go and do well, because they all seem to really like him. But obviously Cardiff cannot get the best out of him one way or the other. And I think he's 23 this year.
Yes.
Got to make that evolution from prospect to first team stalwart, I guess, to be considered for the international level.
Yeah, I think so. And look, sometimes you just don't fit to use one of Craig's words, you don't fit the profile, right? He talks about he's got a good profile. He's the type of profile that we want. And I do wonder if Ruben's just not that. And
he wants high energy players, doesn't he?
High energy players that are dynamic, players that are really will chase and harry, and that's why Mike Harris is getting the nod. And you look at probably technical ability, and you look at potential and the ceiling, and you think, well, Ruben can go levels above Harris. But right now, in the here and now, Harris gives Craig everything that he wants out of a centre forward. So. Yeah, I think it's a tough one for Ruben. Does he have to leave Cardiff? You'd like to think not, but maybe Cardiff just needs some stability as well, and that might help him.
Yeah, we just done an hour on that one.
Yeah, I was going to say
a very interesting conversation. It's one of those. I feel for Ruben in some ways, because I feel that he's become a bit of a scapegoat for some people, but it's just that. Everyone knows what he's capable of. That is almost like a case of they want it happen or they want to see it, and it's just not quite working for him at the moment. But we'll see.
I feel for him in a way, because he's also one of these players. I mean, like, physique wise, it must be difficult to be. He is not Dan James. So, like, quite clearly, he is not Dan James. So he's never gonna really do that. So I do wonder a little bit of what managers are asking him to do. Do I liken him to? And it's a little bit, it's not a direct comparison because of, again, he's a bit bigger as well. But Anton Semenyo, so I cover obviously sort of across South Wales and the West Country. So I saw Anton Semenyo play for Bristol City, and he always looked decent. But he was in and out the side, and he was, he saw flashes and this, that, and the other. He's gone to Bournemouth and has been an absolute revelation. So I do wonder what you were saying earlier, so whether that's right, whether he just needs to get out of Cardiff, test himself, go somewhere where he has a manager like Iriola or similar who can kind of coax that out of him. But yeah, it's consistency, isn't it? Just that consistency of performance.
So interestingly, we were sort of talking about the level of talent coming through within Wales's under-19s and 21s. It does feel like there's just this abundance of absolute quality footballers at the moment in the Welsh setup, which you'd like to think bodes well for the future. But obviously, some will go on and go and have be first teamers. Some will go on and play lower leagues. Some will. It's just the way way of football, the way of the world. Yeah. Who excites you from those younger age groups when you've caught them?
Yeah,
who excites them?
Yeah, but that's the interesting one, isn't it? So the under-19s is really the setup that there's so much focus on at the moment, and I think there's a lot of excitement about this group of players. They've already qualified for an under-17s tournament and gone there and done well. They've qualified for the elite round of the under-19s when they were pretty much mostly a year younger than they should. So in the next couple of weeks, they'll be playing across North Wales in the under-19s elite round. And that's the first time that they've reached that. So that's a real good step forward. You've got players in there. I mean, the Cardiff City fans will recognise the likes of Louis Giles, who's had a glimpse at the first team, hasn't he? And Dylan Lawler as well at centre-back, and really good, high-quality players that have got a lot of potential about them. Troy Perrett as well, I think, as a sort of forward player. But within that, there's some absolute superstars. And by the way, I like Louis Giles. I think he is an absolute class act as a left-back. But within that 19s, Charlie Crew, who had been stepped up to the seniors, he's back in the 19s for this elite round tournament. So that's really interesting because he's gone out on loan to Doncaster. So he is getting game time. But I think that's his place has kind of been taken by Kai Andrews. So Kai Andrews would have been playing in the 19s in this elite round, but he's been shifted up. So I think that's where Charlie Crew has dropped back down. Cruz Allen of Derby County, he's definitely one to keep an eye on. Really, really talented kid. And then, of course, there's the ex-Cardiff lad, Gabriel Biancheri. And he just can't stop scoring at Manchester United. Really, really well thought of. And then I'm going to have to try and get his name right. But Vimal Yoganathan, I believe it is, who's a Barnsley youngster. He's a Sri Lankan descent, but born and sort of raised in Wales. And he is a terrific forward, really tall, got good pace. Reminds you a little bit of a Peter Crouch almost, like in terms of size and technical ability. So that'll be really interesting. And they're definitely one to keep an eye on because we're talking to Chris Gunter today because he leads that team. And he was talking about, just the kind of coaching journey that he's on at the moment and how working with these players is a joy and how them seeing what's happened to Kai Andrews, happened to Lewis Kumas. He said it just helps. It's a very tangible kind of thing for his players to look at and go, if I reach these standards, if I keep hitting that, then I can go and play at that level. And what's great that it's only happened in the last few years for Wales is that you've got players like Freddie Isaac who's playing regularly for, or was in the squad regularly for Plymouth, and he's playing for the 19s, and it's been fairly rare. Like even our under 21s only a few years ago really didn't have anybody playing senior football, and that's changed over the last couple of years. And there's been a big push from sort of Matty Jones, in particular, the under 21s coach, to try and help get these players, work with their clubs, and get them out on loan so they're playing men's football. So some interesting names, and I think the under 21s squad that's been selected for these friendlies, it's a little bit of a mix and match. I imagine it's going to change a little bit once the under 19s get their elite round out of the way, and if they get knocked out, then there'll be a bunch of those players that shift up to the 21s. But there's some great kids in there.
Absolutely, yeah. What did you make of Dylan Lawler's first team debut against Aston Villa in the Cup? I was wondering, like, how that was received within the kind of media and the setup, because from a Cardiff point of view, he's very highly rated. His composure and gets him sort of compared to Danny Gabardon by people like me, just because of how he just takes it in his stride. So
very smooth, isn't he? Yeah. I think it's really exciting. I think it's a little tricky, isn't it? Centre back's probably that position where you very rarely get chucked in as a teenager, do you? And get those opportunities. Certainly at championship level and above, you have to be pretty exceptional in terms of not just ability but physique as well, to be able to get those shouts at championship level. So it might be great for a see him out on loan, I think, next season, maybe dropping to sort of League 2, League 1, getting some game time there. I remember when Joe Rodon was coming through at Swansea, he was sent out on a couple of loans, and in particular, he sort of came back from Cheltenham Town, where he said he got beaten up for about sort of 3 months out there on loan, but it toughened him up ready for the championship. So maybe that's Dylan's future there. But I think in terms of potential and ceiling, again, really high. Looks good. Really well respected as well by the coaching staff and the Welsh system.
It's interesting because Joel Colwell, you mentioned Cheltenham Town. Joel Colwell obviously went out to Cheltenham and was doing exceptionally well, scoring goals, getting assists. He was like their main man, and then Cardiff recalled him and sent him to Exeter. And I don't think he's played much. He's been coming off the bench, and you do wonder, is the difference in level between League 1 and League 2 so different that they had to bring him back and send him out on loan elsewhere? I'm not sure, but I know Cheltenham fans were furious because they messaged me as if I had some sort of say in
it's your fault.
But
I think
they love Joel Colwell, so they were really excited by him, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, I think it's it just shows, doesn't it? It's not an exact science, It's and as a young player, you can go in there and one team. So maybe it's not just the quality, and I think it is. It is obviously a step up in quality, isn't it, from League 1 to League 2, or League 2 to League 1. Sorry, but maybe it's as well the style that Exeter play comparatively to Cheltenham, and maybe what he was being asked to do at Cheltenham, it was the ideal position for him. It clicked with his teammates, etc., and what was being asked of him, and he goes to Exeter. It's a slightly different style, it's different players around him. Maybe it's just not quite clicked for him, but he's named in the under 21 squad, Joel, Cardiff have got some exciting young players, haven't they, in that front line? When you think of Isaac Davis coming back now and getting some time, and maybe we'll see Isaac in a year or so's time, really sort of pushing for the Wales squad as well. Cian Ashford's in the under 21s.
I think with Isaac Davis, his biggest thing is keeping fit now, because he's obviously come back. Saturday, he looked really good. He got his goal, deserved his goal. I was quite surprised he didn't start, but they're obviously, I think, managing his fitness, trying to make sure that he doesn't break down and things like that, which is good because he had that knee injury. But if he can get to the level that I think he's capable of, I think he could be a massive asset for both Wales and, hopefully Cardiff as well, because he's got pace and energy to burn. So he does fit that profile of what Craig Bellamy's looking for, which is interesting.
Absolutely.
Right then, Lawrence, I will let you go because I know you've had a long, long day. And I'm going to bring Geraint back in now to talk a bit of Welsh League and Cymru sport coverage. Give me a little 60-second preview of Wales's game against Kazakhstan. Put you on the spot.
Me?
Yes, go on.
Sorry, man. Yeah, just drop that. Quick preview of Kazakhstan. First World Cup qualifier. A new era for Craig Bellamy. His first World Cup qualifying campaign. We've going to have a packed house at the Cardiff City Stadium. Go get your tickets. Come and cheer the boys on, and then it's off to North Macedonia. So it's a great way to start the campaign. No Ampadu, which is a real shame.
Oh, I know.
No
real
Ampadu,
shame.
no Ampadu. No Wilson. No Ramsey. But no problems. We'll be fine. Got a good squad. Got a really good squad.
And what it means is, I was just going to say, what it does mean is it's an opportunity for someone else, isn't it, to make a career, make a point,
Absolutely.
Make a moment for themselves. And
actually, during the Nations League, we saw so many players, didn't we? Craig used so many players that you just think it's got a fantastic opportunity for all those guys to kind of make their mark, and then they've shown what they can do in the autumn. Now it's time to go and do it again, and then hopefully everybody's fit for Belgium in the summer, because then we might need
that's the big one where you need everything.
Yeah, definitely. But also go and watch the Welsh Cup semi-finals this weekend, because I know you've been talking about it, but there are some fantastic matches up there, and the double header in ABBA will be great fun. Should be really good fun. Cam Bryan up first, and then and the TNS double header, and the Cardiff TNS in the Butte Energy Cup in the Women's Cup. Be a old battle, because those two TNS have been causing lots of surprises this season. Got some good players there, so they might push the champions all the way, I think.
Indeed, I'm looking forward to it. Lawrence, it's been a pleasure as always, mate, and thank you very much for jumping in last minute for me. I appreciate you, mate. Take care.
Not a problem. Cheers, Geraint.
Cheers.
That was Lawrence Mora, who is an absolute legend of a gentleman, as well as being very, very good at his job. He helped me out a little bit this evening. So Geraint, anyway, before we were so rudely interrupted by Lawrence Mora. So we're talking a bit about the Welsh Cup semi-finals, but what JD Cymru games are on Cymru Sport this weekend?
Right.
Towards the end of the week.
Before, just very quickly before, and just to balance things, we did talk about the women's Welsh Cup semi. The other one, which is on Sunday in Newtown, is Wrexham and Pontypridd United. So just for balance. In terms of Cymru Sport, this we're actually not going to cover any of those. They are being covered elsewhere, as those who know. I'm off to Merthyr. Well, I'm off to Merthyr to catch the coach, because Merthyr's continual campaign to get into the National League South continues with a visit to Gosport Borough. And normally we'll have Matt Rowley covering that. Matt is away sunning himself somewhere, and so I put my hand up. I love going to Merthyr games, to be honest. It's a great crack. They're lovely people. And it's entertaining, and it's a good atmosphere, as people might have got the gist of from the last time I did it with the commentary of when Ricardo Reis scored. Merthyr are 9 points clear now. The leading pack, the pack leader from that Totten lost on Saturday, so they've got a little bit of space now. But they have to keep on winning, and it's not easy in that league. So Gosport against Merthyr at 3:00. That's me. That's my whole day. Is either going to be spent on a nice coach or driving to Merthyr with a bit of football in between. The other game that we're covering on Saturday, Spencer is going to Tier 3, and anybody who sort of hasn't got into Welsh football at all, Tier 3 is worth it. It's obviously it's a bit more belt and braces sometimes, but it's always entertaining. I was down at Cardiff Curry's about a month ago, but Spencer is actually going further into the city because he's going to Canton, and Canton they're taking on Blenavon Blues in the Ardle Southeast. Those who don't know, again, Tier 3 is split into 4 regions: Northeast, Northwest, Southeast, Southwest. Don't sort of get me if you think that the geography of the Northeast and the Northwest is a bit awry, and how Canton can be in the Southeast, but Cardiff Corries, who play at Radda, are in the Southwest. It's just how it is. So anyway, Canton are playing. That's 2:00 kickoff. Spence will be covering that. And then on Sunday, I'm doing a double header in the women's game. I will actually be at the TNS Cardiff game. And I take what Lawrence said about TNS. Yeah, they have really come on. Exciting team, new manager, etc. Cardiff are a joy to watch in terms of women's football. In terms of the game itself, it's been very difficult for some of the teams because TNS, Cardiff, Wrexham, Swansea have gone semi-pro, and the rest of them are still amateur. And the gap has shown this season. Aberystwyth, my local team, has struggled, whereas they came fourth last season. They're looking hopefully good to stay up, but they're not playing this weekend. However, they're what referred to as their development team. It's playing in the Central Wales League Cup semi-final at home to Llanfair United, who are a team in Tier 2 of the Welsh women's scene. They're managed by Lucy Gwilt, who is the partner of Gav Allen, who people might well know from Aberystwyth, Pontypridd United, and now Guilsfield fame, former player for Aberystwyth, Carmarthen, etc. And Llanfair are going really well. Aberdev are the perennial winners of the Central Wales Cup, so it'll be an interesting game. That's a 12:00 kickoff. And then I've got time to catch breath and maybe eat a sandwich for the 4:30 kickoff that is TNS and Cardiff. I am looking forward to watching Cardiff City women. No disrespect to TNS, but when the girls are on form, when Fionn Price, when she gets a free kick midway into the opponent's half, she can bend it over the defence into the top corner. It's beauty to watch. When she gets it right, it's brilliant. So I'm going to be watching that as well. So that is our coverage. I'm joined by Francesco, who's one of our newbies. He's a student in Aberystwyth, and he's learning the trade of when to get excited and when not to criticise the ref too much. That sort of thing that you do with commentaries. So that's what we're looking forward to in terms of the league structure this week. We got to the phase now where when they get to knockout rounds, everything stops in the top tier. But it gives an opportunity for some teams to play catch up for the games that were postponed due to bad weather. And so on Saturday, there is only one game in the Cymru Premier, and that's at the top where Bala are playing Haverfordwest. There's only 2 in the Cymru North and none in the Cymru South. It's partly because you've got the Welsh Cup, partly because they've used it as an opportunity to have the League Cup semi-finals as well. But it is, it's a quiet time, but there's a full calendar for Tier 3, and it's worth checking out the local teams there.
Interesting stuff. Sounds like you're going to be very, very busy, Geraint, watching football over the weekend.
Yeah, I think so. And then I think I'll have a lie-in on Monday.
Yeah. Just talking about Merthyr, mate. I know they had a really a big win on the weekend and against Swindon Supermarine.
Yeah.
And then the Tottenham result went their way as well, didn't it?
It did, because Tottenham lost at Wimborne.
Was that a bit of a shock result?
I think so, because Tottenham have been really consistent, and they've been perennial sort of playoff challengers, and certainly when Merthyr played Tottenham 2 weeks ago, they matched them. I think talking to Paul Michael, he did say, and I know it's getting a cliche now, there are no easy games in this league, but it certainly was a surprise to see Tottenham with an L against their name on Saturday. Good news for Martyrs fans.
Yeah.
Merthyr's form has drifted in and out. With the Supermarine game, they went 2-0 up after 13 minutes. There was another Ricardo Reis belter, put them ahead, and then Kieran Evans put them one up. It's an ex-Merthyr player whose name escapes me, I'm afraid, who got one back for Swindon in the second half. But Merthyr saw it through, and it's pretty good because over the transfer window, they lost one of their top players, and they went through a phase of drawing. It's still getting the points, but it gives other teams a chance to catch up. So it's good they're back on winning ways.
Indeed. So they had a bit of a shaky spell, didn't they, Merthyr? I remember when we talked a few weeks ago, they were, not losing, but they were just not quite finding the victories. And then all of a sudden, a big result like that, where the results go your way, can be a bit of a game, a change. It just changes the mood and the feeling around, that race for the promotion and the race for the title. Can just give you that extra bit of confidence.
That's right. I think it's, and they've got they still have some awkward games. I think they will be playing after that. The Saturday, they'll be at home to Chertsey. Matt will be at that game for us. Matt's really enjoying it now because certainly the last time he played last weekend, he was paired up with the captain, Matt Harris, who was out for the rest of the season. So Matt Harris was his co-commentator, and Matt really enjoyed that. I'm not so sure. I don't know what it is a case of where's Matty this weekend. I'm not sure if he's travelling or not. But it's great to have perspective of the senior pros on the game.
Absolutely, for sure. Yeah, the more insight you can get, anything like that is phenomenal, especially for players who are from within the group, because they give a very unique insight into the, not just the abilities of the players, but the mentality and how those players react in certain instances. It's always a fascinating insight. So that kind of takes us nicely into the end of the Welsh Football Hour this evening. And it's been a nice 2-hour chat. Probably too much of my voice this evening, but I've been very blessed to be joined by a couple of good guests in yourself, Geraint, Lawrence Mora, and of course, Wayne with the fan view. And we'll be back next Wednesday on Cymru Sport and Cardiff City World from 7 with all new guests. And I'm sure there'll be plenty more stories to talk about and plenty more things to discuss, because it's never boring in Welsh football, and Cardiff City at the moment is interesting, shall we say. But appreciate you all for tuning in and viewing, listening, commenting, get involved. We like the interactive side of it as well. So please do keep doing that, and we will see you next week from 7. Take care.
You're listening to Cardiff City World on Cymru Sport Radio, live from the Welsh capital. The most interactive football show in Wales, featuring guests, fan opinion, and all the latest news surrounding Cardiff City. Have your say and get in touch now.